Bartke here. Welcome to my little lab. So one of the most frequently asked questions surrounds scaling and manual bidding and all of that. So let's make a little video here about scaling. All right, now I'm going to show you the biggest mistakes that are scaling mistakes that most people make all the time. So let's jump in here real quick. I prepared a bubble map. Let's see if we can scale that a little bit so you can see it better. Okay, so here are the scaling mistakes. That's the biggest one. You're scaling too soon, you're scaling with the wrong optimization, you're scaling with the wrong bid, and you're scaling with low budgets. Okay, all of them are bad. And if you combine a couple of these mistakes, then certainly there's no scaling that's actually going to work. All right, so let's go through them one by one. So too soon, a lot of people set out to scale as soon as they have a couple of sales or very few sales, a handful of sales, and these handful of sales happen to be at a great at a great cost per purchase, and so they think, well, this is the next hit, so let's scale the sucker up. Well, that's not all bad, you know, so all of these mistakes are kind of close to something that is a good indication, but except by in itself, it can be a wrong indicator to scale too soon, okay? That makes you scale too soon. So few events, what do I mean by that? So a handful of events, first day, you know, just like you have a very low budget. Let's say you set a budget of $10 and you have two sales on that right away out of the gate, and you're making whatever, $50 revenue. Now that's awesome, right? It sounds really good. It's, you know, my favorite metric is the percentage of Facebook ad spend out of gross revenue. So that would be, in this case, would be 20%. So that's not bad. But the problem is this thing doesn't have any momentum yet. So you can't really scale big, particularly when you started at a low budget. I personally don't start any ad set anymore under $100 daily budget assigned to it, okay? And when you do that, then you get more results faster that are more meaningful, and then you can more easily scale. Plus, you actually have the secret weapon of scaling already loaded and in your back pocket, and that is raising the bid. Okay, when you have a $100 budget on an ad set, all you need to do to get a little bit more traffic there and see if that next tier of traffic also converts well is raise the bid, because then you open the floodgates more and you let more traffic in and you don't mess up the algorithm of the ad, and there you go. So too soon is not good, particularly if you combine it with one of the other things. For example, the biggest one is low budget. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Wrong optimization. So wrong optimization happens when you try to optimize on too few events. So that is kind of like something about the seasoning of the pixel or the seasoning of that particular event that you're optimizing for, the seasoning of the ad account. Okay, so if you don't have enough events on a pixel, on a specific event, then it's not a good idea to try and scale big into that, because then the pixel doesn't help you enough yet. But, and this is kind of a common knowledge, the too few events thing and the idea that you need to season the pixel and the pixel needs to learn something. Now sit down, stop it, down, spot. There you go. The dog wants to have a word in here, edgewise. All right. So, so too few events, that's kind of common knowledge or common philosophy to pay attention to that and season the pixel. But the second point here is rarely observed, and that is low frequency events. So there's this magic number, probably all of you have heard about, and that is 25. So Facebook officially says if you don't have at least 25 events in a certain time frame, usually they say daily, but I'm going to say something about that in a minute. So if you don't have at least 25 events, then optimization isn't really happening. Now, for the longest time, I questioned that, and I wasn't quite, and nobody's ever sure if they mean, you know, 25 sales of a specific product or across all ad sets that you have running to them, or if they mean, you know, 25 sales per ad set, which is kind of like more like what makes sense if you follow me on that. So because we're talking about optimization, we're talking about the frequency of events. Now, the frequency of events, I always think of it this way. If you're flying an airplane, or if you're driving a car, airplane, let's go airplane, or if you're driving a boat, but let's go airplane. So if you're flying an airplane and you're flying a straight course, and you don't have any reason to think that your course is wrong unless you get a corrective signal, an event that points that the real direction you should be going is over here, other different direction, right? Over there or over there, whatever, but not exactly the direction that you're going in. So unless you get a signal like that, you're not allowed to change directions. But every time you do get an event like this, then you're allowed to change, to adjust the steering as much as it allows, right? So, I mean, there are extremes. If you all of a sudden get a signal way out over there, you can't even correct all the way, bam, this way. You just have to kind of go into that direction so that hopefully you catch a turn and then you get another event from some other location. So that's the idea. So unless you get an event, you cannot course correct, all right? And that's exactly how Facebook optimization works. So now think of it. If you have, let's say you have 5 sales a day, then these 5 sales a day are your course corrective events, all right? So based on where those sales events happen, that allows Facebook to adjust the optimization and go towards a different audience group that fits where that sale exactly came from. Now, think about it. You can fly an awful lot of time, awful lot of stretch here in between those events if they occur so infrequently. And that's why the frequency of events has to be at least 25, according to official Facebook, per ad set and per optimization time frame. And that's where the 7-day option comes in, right? They actually opened a little back door there where previously, prior to that 7-day option, it was 25 per day, and that's it. But now you can actually stretch that rule a little bit and make it 25 per 7 days if you choose the 7-day option. Now that's why 25 works. That's why optimization on purchases all of a sudden works a little bit better on the 7-day option than on the 1-day option, or than it used to before where there wasn't any 7-day option. But now here's the other thing. 25 is the bare minimum where something good starts happening in Facebook, right? Below that, there's nothing. It's just interpreting lottery numbers when you look at your results and you think, oh yeah, there's optimization going on. Not true. It's all just chance and stuff that's under the hood that you don't understand. But once you have 25, and that's the bare minimum. So it's better to shoot for even more, all right? So what I do is I basically make a little formula that says, all right, look at your budget. Look at the budget that you allocate to an ad set based on the optimization time frame. So if your daily budget is $100, and then you pick the 7-day option, now you actually have $700 to play with. And so $700 to play with, let me write this on the board here. So you have $700 to play with for the optimization. And based on those $700, if you get a conversion, whatever that conversion might be, let's say it's a sale for $10, and write $10 per purchase, then that means into that 7-day window there, you can actually fit 70 of these guys, right? So, and that is where things start actually happening, okay? So now you're well above the 25 minimum, you're at a 70, and that is a good thing. That's a happy thing here, all right? Now, you can also reframe that in a different way where you then go, let's say, you know, you have 20 purchases, $20 purchases. So for the $20 purchases, you only get 35 of those in that time frame. That's still about 25, but it's not really great. So in this case, I would personally go for the add to cart, because add to carts, you probably have at least between $5 and $10 for that. So you get about 120-ish, right? In that time frame again, in that 7-day time frame. And that's a lot better for optimization, okay? So keep that in mind. Keeping these numbers in mind makes you understand, allows you to understand how the optimization works much better, all right? So pick an event that is a high enough frequency, and pick that event only after you've had already a bunch of those events in your particular pixel or custom conversion or whatever it is that you optimize for. All right, let's move on. Wrong bid. So the bid, if you bid manually, the bid can either be too low or too high. And in the beginning, it tends to have to be a little bit higher than you think, so that you can kick off traffic and show Facebook that this particular ad set and this particular ad has actually enough engagement to get that event for a lower cost than average, than Facebook thinks. So when you set the bid, never really look at the suggested bid, but rather just kind of go off of the old standard. So if you optimize, really what I do is if I optimize for add to cart, I'll go between $7 and $12. If you want to be really on the safe side to get it kicked off at first, you go for 15. That usually gets add to cart started. If you're looking at purchase, I usually start it off at 30. Sometimes I reduce it a bit to like 25 or so. But then once you get your initial boost of traffic and you see actual numbers and their actual cost for these events, then you can move the bid down. So now, too low, that's when the bid is low enough to cut off all traffic. I always use the metaphor of clutch, like a stick shift, clutch and gas pedal with that. And so with that, it's like, if it's too low, then that means you choke the engine and you don't get going. If it's too high, you make a pop a wheelie and you blow out a lot of money and you don't get enough conversions for it because the trimming of the optimization isn't honed into your actual goals. Okay, so now let's talk about budgets in general a little bit, and that is the fourth big mistake here. So with low budgets, number one, there is no real optimization. It ties into that 25 number over here that we went over there. If your budget is too low, and let's say you have a $5 budget, and even when you do the 7-day window with that, it's only $35. If you get a $10 conversion like we had there before, and you optimize for that event, then even in the 7-day time frame, there's only room in there for 3.5 conversions, and that is just not enough to optimize anything. So if you do that, just be aware you're not using Facebook optimization. You're not taking advantage of Facebook optimizing your campaigns. That's what it is, period, end of story. Facebook says, and if you have different results, if you think that you get low budget campaigns working continuously and they look like they're getting better, then you're tapping into something else, but not into Facebook optimization, all right? So that is the big problem there. And then also, I call it here not enough auctions. So we know obviously that Facebook, the system in general, is an auction-based system. The auctions are generally based on impressions. Everything in Facebook is computed based on impressions, and the auction basically runs one impression at a time. Who has the best configuration and the best constellation between whatever their bid is, their monetary bid, and the engagement. That's where engagement comes in, or you can call it something else. You can call it relevance score or whatever. It doesn't matter. But there is a factor there that lets people win impressions even with a lower bid, where other people miss out on those same impressions, even if their bid is a little higher. So the ratio or the combination of engagement and monetary bid is what determines how many impression actions you win. So just to clarify that, you're always bidding on, the auction is always based on impression, and the bid for the impression is always the combination of engagement and the monetary bid, whether you let this sit on auto or whether you put a manual bid into that field, all right? Doesn't matter, it's always that combination. And so when you're bidding on add to cart or view content or even link click or purchase, you're basically bidding on an event as a proxy that Facebook runs this thing for a little bit and then sees if your proxy bid is good enough to run that, to keep running impressions for you, okay? But in the meantime, you can win impressions even though you don't get a sale for those at the bid that you're looking for. But because your engagement and your bid is good enough to win impression auctions, that's why you get impressions not necessarily while getting the actual event that you're bidding on for the price of the bid. Okay, it's a little bit confusing because of this proxy relationship between what the actual auctions are for, impressions, and what you're bidding on, whatever it is, whatever the event is. So the key here is about the budget, right? This is under low budgets, and that's where it goes. The key here is that low budgets limit the traffic by themselves. That's why usually you can get some sales with low budgets, but it's really hard to scale because something that works at a low budget doesn't necessarily at all work at a higher budget. Okay, so the way this works is the low budget limits the traffic, limits the daily ad spend, right? Because it's limited by the budget, by the daily budget. So if you have $5 or $10 or $25, those are all low budgets. And if you have those, your opportunity to compete in an auction for impressions is severely limited by the need for Facebook to spread out this low budget over so much time. So there's you're just kind of think of it as a meter of here goes the ad spend, and it's really, really slowly. There's a ton of space in between the actual impressions that you can ever get, even if you would win more auctions in between the ones that you're getting. You can only get so many because Facebook is stretching your budget all the way across the 24-hour time frame of the Facebook account day. So that's why with the low budget, you don't really need a manual bid because you're already severely limited to how many auctions you can participate in. Now, when you set the budget higher, what happens is now all of a sudden you get to participate in a whole bunch more auctions. You're not all auctions by any means. You would need to put thousands of dollars on a million audience or so, but you get to participate in way more auctions during the day, and therefore you get a chance to win more. So therefore you have to now control your spending by using a manual bid. So if you use a higher budget, you need to control and mitigate your risk by putting a manual bid on there. Okay, so that's how this works. All right, well, there you go. That's the basic of scaling and scaling mistakes. See what can go wrong. And I hope this information helps you. And I'll see you sometime soon. Sign up for whatever is the context here of this video. See us in the Trackify users for Shopify and Facebook marketing. And there you go. This is Thomas Bartke signing off. Thanks a lot. Bye.